Everything in your life is determined by your looks, your dating success, your life success, how people treat you, and how much success you have in dating. Everything is determined by your looks. Not only that, you are also tied to your genetics. You only have a genetic potential and a genetic baseline. If you aren't born with the right genes, you're basically doomed. That's the major beliefs of the black pill ideology, the ideology that I believe is one of the most dangerous and false ones in the modern world. Not only that generally causes people to arguably kill themselves, but it's also absolutely wrong and make people focus on the wrong things their entire life. But the good news is that as the most educated teenager on human evolution and human nature, today I'm gonna debunk the major points of the black pill. Looks are everything when it comes to status. There is no status if you don't have good looks. This is simply false. There is not even close to true. There is not requires more nuance. This is simply false. And the reason it is false because from evolutionary perspective, it doesn't make any sense for humans to give status to someone just because he looks good. Think about it logically. Every single individual, every single being in the face of the world right now does things purely from egotistical reason, because the only ones who survive are the ones who cared about their own genes. So if we look about the evolutionary perspective of why would someone get status, it comes down to two major things. The first point is that the individual is beneficial for society and for the tribe. Because think about it, who is gonna get the most status if not the guy who literally feeds the entire tribe? Who is gonna get the status if not the guy who protects the tribe? Because if I'm low status, okay, who would I give status? Who would I respect? Who would I submit to? The guy who is good looking, who is not gonna give anything for my survival, or the guy who feeds me, who protects me and protects the whole tribe? The answer is clear. The guy who protects and gives the most food to people. That's why high status individuals are so valued in society, because when there is a problem, we call the big guy, we call the guy who knows how to deal with stuff. We love those guys. The second thing that gave men status from evolutionary perspective is the competence for violence. What do I mean by that? Let's say, for example, we want the same thing. You want that land who has a lot of animals and water, and I want it too. How do I force you to submitting me and not going there? How do I force you to retreat, or even how do I force myself to just get that thing that we both want? And the answer from animalistic perspective and the core nature of natural selection is violence, because I can only force yourself to retreat if you're dead. I can only force yourself if it's so painful that you don't want to continue fighting me. That's the core nature of animals. Violence. And even though it sounds maybe, oh, cringe, we are not living in those societies anymore, think about it. Who has the most power and status in the modern world? This is the politician who have armies. This is the businessman who have money, who have literally entire armies in the snap of their finger, deleting you from existence. Violence is the core of human nature. And that's why from evolutionary perspective, the people who got the most status are the ones who were the most capable for violence, because if you weren't submitting me, I could just kill you. And this is simply as that. The second argument is that looks are everything when it comes to dating, and this stems from the fact that humans have been designed to pass on their genes. So black pillers say that humans pick better looking partners that signal better genes in order to improve their gene pool. But this is also simply false, and this is a wrong misunderstanding of how natural selection works. The mating strategy of both men and women doesn't come from improving your gene pool, it comes from making your offspring survive. No animal gets rewarded for having better genes. The only animals that get rewarded are the ones who survive and reproduce. So every aspect of every individual mating strategy is to just improve their offspring survival, and looks are part of it because they are signal of a healthier human beings. But the problem with that, and it is specifically for men, that there is one major component that has way bigger effect on the offspring survival than anything else. And you guessed it right. What is this thing? Status and resources. Yes. Throughout all of human evolution, resources were scarce, and obviously because of the nature of humans, even if you had resources but someone could come, kill you, rape your wife, kill your children, you also had to have the capacity to violence. And that's why the woman's mating strategy came from specifically protection and provision. Men who had more status, who were more capable for violence, were picked because they basically guaranteed the survival of the woman's offspring. And this is more nuanced for women as well, because think about it, even the most healthy woman with the perfect hip or the perfect waist to hip ratio, whatever, if she was a hoe, if she wasn't loyal, if she wasn't nurturing, the child would be fucking dead, because obviously how the fuck does the child is gonna survive if the mother, I don't know, fucking is busy fucking other men? Like obviously that would be absolutely horrible for the child's, for the men's offspring. So men haven't only have been designed to pick women based on how attractive they are, it also based on how they behave, or I should say it is more correctly, women's attraction is also highly influenced in how she behaves. That's why estrogen, when it is in the highest, influence the woman's brain to be nurturing, empathic, and empathy, I don't know how to fucking pronounce these words, but basically a more kind human being in general. And that's what also makes women highly attractive. So you can see from both genders it is highly nuanced, and looks are not everything. Now the third major argument is that genetics are everything and you are basically doomed if you weren't born with the right genetics. This is partly correct. What do I mean by that partially correct? Genetics play a massive role in your life. Doesn't matter how hard you're gonna work, if you're 5'2", you're not gonna be an NBA player. That's the truth. But this is also neglects two major aspects of genetics. One is that genetics aren't inherently bad or good. Genetics are just certain characteristics to your physical body that have been adapted to a certain environment. That's why people in certain environments where there is malaria have been designed with a higher composition of fast twitch muscle fibers. I forgot the whole nuanced aspect of why exactly, but those people have had higher chances of survival if they had higher fast twitch muscle fibers. But if you bring those people in environments where they had to have extreme endurance, those people wouldn't get no fucking bitches, because obviously they're not gonna get any food, they're not gonna get any status, and therefore they're not gonna reproduce. So as you can see, those genetics aren't inherently bad or good. They are just adapted to certain environment. There is only right or wrong environment. The second aspect of genetics that black pillars neglect is that genetics need environment. The myth of Chad becoming a Chad despite his body environment is absolutely horrible when you actually understand human physiology. Think about it. How do you become 2 meters tall if you don't consume any calorie, any energy source you don't get, let alone protein, let alone nutrients? If you don't get any type of energy, how on earth can you literally become tall? There is no way from you from physiological perspective to become tall. You need energy, you need resources to become taller. So that's the first point. Also, you have to understand that those chads not only may have good genetics, a lot of those charts are actually just environmentally superior. Think about it. Why does the tallest people are in well-developed countries? Why does the tallest people are in countries where they consume the most protein on average? Why does the shortest people are existing in countries where they aren't developed, they have a lot of stress, they have a lot of pollution, and they have too much carbs and too little protein? Think about it. Why? Simply because environment is equally as important as genes. With genetics, you're not gonna become an NBA player if you're 4'11", but also you're not gonna become a Chad if your environment is fucked. So genetics and environment is equally as important. So in conclusion, even though the black pill has its correct points, it is majorly flawed. The black pill neglects so many aspects of human nature that it's actually very laughable. But in the end of the day, we don't need to just bash the black pill, we also need to look at what we actually need to do and what we actually need to believe. I would say I'm not going to be a prophet. I'm not going to be a God who is gonna tell you what is correct and what is wrong. But I would say the most objective way to look at life is through the evolutionary lens. Look at how our bodies and brain have been programmed through thousands, if not millions years of evolution, and you gonna understand how our body and mind works. So my brothers or even sisters, don't take the black pill, take the evolutionary pill. Thank you for watching and see you next time.